Let's talk about how we can actually start using WordPress and develop utilizing a CMS. When you're building a website using a CMS like WordPress, you can either choose to work in a remote environment, and this is using a live server, or a local environment, which uses your own local server. Each option has its own advantages and disadvantages. Let's take a look. Developing locally refers to the process of creating and testing a website or web application on your own computer, your local machine. This is different than developing on a live remote server. When we develop locally, it allows us to build, modify, and test your project without needing an internet connection or worrying about affecting the live site. Working locally has its own set of pros and cons. Some of the advantages are speed and performance. Local environments generally provide faster load times and performance since you're not dependent on internet speed. You'll be able to make quick iterations. Changes can be made and tested almost instantaneously. When you're developing locally, you will have a safe environment in which to develop in. Because the development happens on your own local machine, it's secure from outside attacks and public access. Changes and errors will not affect the live site, ensuring that there's no downtime for users. When we develop locally, we don't require a web hosting service. This can save costs during the development phase. You can also work on your project without needing an internet connection. Some of the disadvantages are that local environments may differ slightly from the live server environment. You may have different PHP versions or different server configurations. This can lead to unexpected issues when deploying. Keeping the local and the live environments in sync can be challenging and time-consuming, so that's also something you'll need to keep in mind. Sometimes when you're developing locally, sharing your progress with clients or team members requires additional steps, such as setting up a local server for them or pushing updates onto a remote server. Remote development involves creating and testing a website or web application on a server that is accessible over the internet rather than on your own local machine. This server could be a live production server or a separate staging and testing server. Working remotely also has its own set of pros and cons. Some of the advantages are that when you test in a live environment, you are ensured that the website behaves as expected under real-world conditions. You'll be working on the actual server with the server configurations, experiencing network latency, and other real-life scenarios. When you make changes, they can be immediately reviewed by clients and team members. This makes collaboration very easy because anyone can access and test the development site from anywhere with an internet connection. All of the development happens in one place, reducing the risk of version control issues. Because we're working in the same server setup as the production site, this ensures fewer environment-related issues. Some of the disadvantages are that development can be slower due to the need to upload changes and the dependent files up onto the internet. Mistakes or bugs can cause downtime, and they may affect the live site if it's not managed properly. Development sites are accessible over the internet. This makes them vulnerable to attacks if not properly secured. And finally, hosting remotely requires a hosting service. This can incur additional costs. The final method is a hybrid approach. A hybrid development approach combines the advantages of both local and remote development environments, allowing developers to work efficiently on their local machines while also testing and collaborating on a remote server. This method leverages the speed and security of local development with the real-world testing and collaboration benefits of remote environments. Working in a hybrid environment is my recommended approach. Many developers use a combination of local and remote environments to leverage the benefits of both. Generally, they'll start working locally to ensure fast iteration and testing. You can then use a staging server for testing in a remote environment that mirrors the production setup. You can deploy changes to the staging server for client review and final testing before pushing the site live. Here's a quick summary of the benefits of a hybrid development approach. Developers can work quickly and iterate on their own local machines without the need for constant internet access or upload delays. They can rapidly test and debug changes locally before pushing them to the remote server. Errors and experiments on the local environment do not affect the live site or remote testing environment. Because changes are thoroughly tested locally before being pushed to the remote server, this will minimize the risk of downtime. When we actually work remotely, we can take advantage of real-world testing. We'll be able to test the application in an environment that closely matches the production server, ensuring that any server-specific issues are caught early. Clients and team members can review changes on the remote server in real time. This also allows for collaboration. Team members can access the remote server from different locations, facilitating better collaboration. Sometimes you may use version control systems like Git to manage code changes and ensure consistency between local and remote environments. Both local and remote environments have their advantages and disadvantages. A hybrid approach that combines the speed and safety of local development with real-world testing and collaboration, combined with the benefits of a remote environment, is often the most effective strategy for WordPress development. This approach ensures a smooth workflow, better collaboration, and fewer surprises when deploying the site live.